and welcome to the Wednesday class that shall not be named. We're working on some possible tech issues right now. I think we're on. We're having problems with people coming into Zoom, so we'll do our best
There's Ava. You got Ava. Hi, Ava.
here. So welcome. We got other people not here who are here on Zoom. Arnold, who is on, Michael as well, and Lou, who just may not be able to get in fully yet. And they're coming back in. If you're having trouble getting in, that's probably not your fault. I'm having some internet problems here, it looks like. But welcome, everybody.
Larry Brown.
All right, I think Michael is now coming in. Michael, good
Yeah,
morning.
shut that off.
We're
Good
gonna
morning.
we're gonna wait a minute or two to start.
Hey,
As
Michael.
tech problems.
Hey, good morning.
My problem, not yours. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning to Michael, Eva, Ron, Arlene, and Flossie's off to the side, and Lou's trying to get in, and Arnold, and everybody watching on YouTube. Thrilled to be here with so much going on in this community. It is almost overwhelming. We're doing so many things. Friday night, we're having the community dinner at the JEA. That has just booked up. Our chef cut it off at 120. We did not know we were going to have that many people. We could still come to services at 7, but we didn't realize we were going to have 120 by Tuesday. So that means it would have been 150 or 175, and we just didn't have that. So next year when we do this, we'll make sure to know to have more seats available. And we'll have Saturday morning services also coming up. We have, of course, the Purim Spiel is coming up, which everybody is invited. Usually we have a big crew from Sun City participating, but this year I think it's just Art. Art is
We signed up already.
out. I mean, to be in the play for Purim Spiel.
No.
But the Purim Spiel, we have adults and kids this year. We have 15 people participating, I believe, in the play. So that's going to be coming up in just a short 2 weeks. So hope everybody will be there for that. And we're going to keep giving announcements now since we still have some people trying to get in, it looks like. We also have Introduction to Judaism with Glenn, which just started again at 6:30 on Tuesday, started yesterday. And that's a wonderful way. It's free. Just go online to Zoom. Men's Night Out tonight is at 6 p.m. at Wild Wings, Buffalo Wild Wings. This Saturday, we have our volunteer choir singing for Board Appreciation Shabbat. And then the Megillah reading is on the 2nd. So we'll have the choir. I think, is anybody here is from the choir? I don't.
I'm very glad I'm not in the choir.
They really want Lou to be in the choir. They've
Definitely.
Get Lou.
For this thing, you'll know why we're not in the choir.
The rabbi at the conservative synagogue in town has just told me many times he really wants to hear me sing because he's heard so many bad things about it. He wants to hear how bad I do sing. I think it's going to be a letdown because I'm bad, but I'm not like, dying cow bad. I'm just bad.
Be careful what you wish for.
That's right. But yes, maybe I am that bad. I've gotten worse through the years. All right, Lou, did you have trouble getting in? Okay.
No, as usual, I was trying to do too many things at once.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure because it
No,
seems like
no problem.
some slow internet here. So today, as we are now getting ready for, hard to believe, Purim, yes, but also Passover. And you say, well, Passover is not for 6 weeks.
Wow.
But on the Jewish calendar, we start preparing early for Passover. And so what we're going to talk about is the Shabbats that have a special name. So there are Shabbats that are named because they have some sort of extra purpose. We usually read a little extra from the Torah, and we have a special Haftorah reading that leads into this special meaning. And the most famous ones, of course, are Shabbat Rosh Chodesh, but also Shabbat Shuvah, which we'll talk about, and the Shabbats that come before Passover, which we just started last Friday and Saturday. So we're going to talk about the Shabbats we have that come usually before. Once in a while, there's one Shabbat Nachama, which comes afterwards. But we'll talk about the ones that come before and then go to the ones. So Nachamu comes at the after. Most of them come before. So let's talk about, we just had Shabbat Shekalim, which is one of the 4 official, 1 unofficial Shabbats that come before Passover. Remember, Passover is freedom. It is the Exodus from Egypt. So we have Shabbat Shekalim, Shabbat Zachor, Shabbat Parah, Shabbat HaChodesh, and then right before Passover is something called Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat. It's not officially one of these special Shabbats, but it unofficially is. So what is Shabbat Shekalim? We just had that, and that is the Shabbat before the month of Adar. That is the month of the holiday of Purim. It's the month before Passover. And so it's named after a special reading talking about that you're supposed to donate a half shekel for the communal sacrifice. So it's interesting, or not interesting, it's pretty obvious that we see the word shekel being used in the Torah and in the Bible. So when Israel founded itself in 1948, the official name of their monetary system they were going to use was the shekel. So they use the shekels in Israel now, but they also at one time used the shekel in ancient Israel. And Shabbat Shekalim is everybody is supposed to make this half shekel donation. It doesn't matter if you're poor or wealthy. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This is a small amount that is across the board. Kind of like when they try and do some sort of special tax for, we did one for the fire department or for the school semester. It's like it doesn't matter how much you pay in taxes, whether you have a gigantic house or a business or a small one, everybody's going to make this tiny contribution.
Rabbi,
And, yes, Ron.
what is a shekel compared to an American?
Right now, a shekel is usually, I think it's like I don't know what it is now. It's been at times as high as 1 to 2.5. Let me check what the shekel to dollar rate is right now.
I think it's 3.7.
Yeah, it's the best I think has been. It's about 1 to 3 right now. So sometimes it gets as good as $1 to $2.5 shekels. Right now it's about $1 to 3 shekels. But that changes on, obviously on how the economy, I'm not exactly sure how it changes or why. I just know it changes. Generally speaking, it's $1 to $2.5, $1 to $3, and unless the dollar gets strong or the shekel gets weak, and then it gets worse. So, but by the way, invest in shekels, and you know how good I am at investing. So please follow my lead in investing. And that was sarcasm. Do not invest in anything I recommend. That is not a good idea. So this special donation is then reiterated in the book of 2 Kings, where you see a donation being made to the temple, whereas in the Torah, it's being made to the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. In the Torah, in the book of 2 Kings, it talks about how you make this donation to the temple. And again, it's an egalitarian donation. And that is kind of something that we see echoed in America at times too, that everybody has to make the same donation, but we're going to make it a very minimal amount. So that is the Shabbat we just had. Then we have Shabbat Zachor, which is coming up this weekend, I believe.
Rabbi,
Shabbat, yes. Oh,
you can't use money on Shabbat, so do you make this donation before or after?
exactly. Exactly. So this weekend is Shabbat. Should be Shabbat Zachor. I think we don't have Shabbat Zachor. I think it's an odd one, so we wait a week and then have Shabbat Zachor the week after. Am I right? Yeah, Shabbat Zachor. So sometimes in the calendar you have a week where there's not a special Shabbat. There was one last week because Purim is on a Sunday night. So then in 2 weeks we'll have Shabbat Zachor, which means the Shabbat of remembrance. And this is the Shabbat that comes right before Purim. And you read a special little passage from Deuteronomy which talks about Amalek. Now, who is Amalek? Amalek is obviously one of the great villains in Jewish history. He's the one who attacked the Israelites right after they left Egypt, when they were unable supposedly to defend themselves. And so we're supposed to talk about how we have to blot out Amalek. We have to destroy Amalek completely. And people have used this as, well, isn't that genocide? You're getting rid of Amalek and all his followers. It is not, for an interesting reason. We completely wipe out Amalek in the Torah. He's gone. But then it comes back. He comes back, and then he comes back again later after we wipe him out completely. So Amalek becomes the representation of evil, of how we're trying to destroy evil completely. It's not literally meant to be we destroy Amalek completely and kill everybody, because how can we kill everybody and then they come back again and then again and again? And there's a very obvious reason that we read, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven on the Saturday before Purim, because we are now about to talk about another villain. And who is the villain we're talking about?
Haman.
Haman. And so this is the obvious connection between Amalek and Haman. We talk about Amalek in the Torah, and we talk about Haman in the scroll of Esther and the Megillat Esther that we're going to read just a day or two or three or four later. So we're commanded to blot out the memory of Amalek, just like we're commanded to read from the scroll of Esther every year at Purim. So our Purim spiel this year is going to be Star Trek Purim, chosen by the rabbi at the conservative synagogue. People assume it was me. I wrote it, but I did not create the theme because I'm more of a Star Wars fan. And he and his wife and my wife are Star Trek aficionados. So that is the Shabbat that will be coming in 2 weeks. The Shabbat we talk about Amalek, Shabbat Zachor. So after Shabbat Zachor, we're getting closer and closer to Passover, and we have Shabbat Parah. Parah means heifer, or, it's the animal, whatever a heifer is, a goat, a sheep, they're all the same.
A cow.
A cow, whatever a heifer is.
Okay, whatever.
So it's the red cow that we're supposed to read. This is the red cow that is used. The ashes are used to ritually purify anybody who's come in contact with a dead person. If you come into contact with a dead person, you are considered to be impure. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't really matter at all unless you want to do something in front of God. Like if you want to make a sacrifice to God, or if you're working at the temple, you have to purify yourself. Today we use the mikveh. Back then they used the mikveh, but they also used the ashes of the red heifer. Now, the red heifer has become a very important phrase in many corridors. Why? Because there's a belief that if we have a perfect red heifer, it is the signal that the Messiah is coming and that we're going to rebuild the temple. So you'll see all the time people saying, we think the perfect red heifer has been born. Inevitably, they will find some sort of issue with it. Oh, look, there's a gray hair here, or it's been clipped, or this is not perfect, so this is not the red heifer. There are people who are trying to use genetics to create the perfect red heifer so that the Messiah will come. It's not part of my theology, but it is certainly an important part, because less about the red heifer, but the idea that if you're getting ready to go to Jerusalem for Passover, because it's a pilgrimage holiday, please purify yourselves beforehand. Go to the mikveh to make sure that when you give your sacrifice, you are in a pure state, because nobody can tell if you're in a pure state. Most people are in pure states a lot. If you touch a dead body, if you do this or that, you can be impure. But if you're going to make a sacrifice, you got to be pure. Flossie.
Can men go to the mikveh?
Men go to the mikveh. Women would go monthly. Men would go before they got married. They'd go to purify themselves before making a sacrifice. Today, there is a belief in many corridors, I'll use that phrase again, that men should do a mikveh at least once in their life, usually before they're married. I have done 3 mikvahs in my life. One I did in Israel, which was a very scary moment. So I was leading a group of students. I'm like 22 years old, just got out of college, never really traveled much, going to Israel, leading these teenagers to Israel. And the guide says, let's go to the mikveh near Sfat. I'm like, we're all like, great, we'll get in the mikveh. And you're supposed to be naked in the mikveh, so we're going to the mikveh, and it's a fairly small mikveh. And in the mikveh is a giant, disgusting man who must be bathing. And he, you're supposed to get in the mikveh and get out, but he is just hanging out. And so our guide, starts yelling him at Hebrew that we have a line of people who want to get in. And the guy looks at us, and it's me and some of the students, says in English, no worries, you can all come in with me. And we're all like, no, we will wait until you're finished and then go in individually. No rush from us.
Did they change the water?
No, they do not change the water. It just has to be free flowing water. So from a stream or a lake. So that mikveh was a little disgusting. The second mikveh I did. Oh, Eva, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I got married in Israel, so I had to go to the mikveh there. It was scary. I did not have a good time. First of all, I'm afraid to go underwater to begin with, and these ladies and Rebbitzins or whoever they were, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary.
It's supposed to be a profound moment.
Yeah.
My second mikveh I went before I got married, so I did the mikveh.
Oh, you went to the mikveh.
And then I was driving home, and I realized I did not take my contacts out. So I had to go back, shower off, and do a third mikveh by taking my contacts out. So those are the 3 mikvahs.
Rabbi,
Yes.
I went to, I went to the mikveh, many years ago in Brooklyn. It was really a very, very big experience. All the Orthodox were with me.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it should be a profound experience, but it depends. So the Haftorah deals with, again, being cleansed from contamination. Impurity is linked with sinfulness in some ways, so try and purify yourself before you go before God. So if you go through conversion, you're going before God, you go through a mikvah. If you're going to go get married before God, you do a mikvah. Not everybody does, but it's certainly something that is really an opportunity to do that if you'd like. So, Flossie,
How far back does the mikvah go in our history?
the mikvah goes back to biblical times. We're talking all the way back to the Torah. It is almost mentioned there, I believe, about purifying yourself with water. So they are using the red heifer, but again, obviously the red heifer is not always around. So the mikvah becomes a very major part. And again, we have found ancient ones in Israel and other places going back to the Greek period and even farther back. So
Is there a mikveh in Savannah?
there are 2 mikvahs in Savannah.
Wow.
There's one for the community that's next to the Orthodox synagogue. The Orthodox synagogue then just had their own mikvah made, which is a private one mostly for women who go monthly. So we don't have access to that one, but there's the community one we helped build. So now we go to Shabbat HaChodesh as we get very close. So Shabbat HaChodesh is the Shabbat of the month. So there are 2 Shabbats usually before Passover in the month of Nisan. So this is the first Shabbat before the month of Nisan. So it is detailing the ideas of getting ready for Shabbat. In the Bible, we talk about in the Torah putting the blood on the doorposts. Nisan is the beginning of the calendar year. So it is the Shabbat before the calendar years. The example would be the Shabbat before January 1st on our calendar. So it begins the cycle of the year. Now you might want to say, well, wait a minute. Rosh Hashanah is the new year, but in Judaism we have several new years. One is Rosh Hashanah, birthday of the world, day 8. But the beginning of the calendar season, comparing again to January 1st, would be the 1st of Nisan, which is the month of Passover. So we don't know the names of the months in the Torah. The calendar we have, the Hebrew calendar we have, comes later, but Nisan became the first month on the calendar. So that is the month of Passover. So the Shabbat before Passover, which is not officially a special Shabbatot, but it is really a special Shabbat, is called Shabbat Hagadol. If you don't know what Hagadol means, it is the great. So Shabbat Hagadol is the great Sabbath. We're leading up to the great Sabbath, and that is the one that precedes Passover. Sometimes it's a day before, sometimes it's 5 days before. This is the Shabbat, one of the 2 Shabbats traditionally you give. Anybody know what you deliver on Shabbat Hagadol? Only twice traditionally do you deliver something. And Shabbat Hagadol is one of them, and that is a sermon. So you're only supposed to traditionally give a sermon twice a year. Those are what we call the good old days. So when the Reform movement started in Germany in the early 19th century, they wanted to add a sermon every Shabbat, like the Christians did. And it was rallied against, but as time has gone on, the sermon has become something that is delivered, or some sort of talk on Shabbat in all synagogues. But traditionally, this is one of the only 2 times. We'll talk about the other one in a moment. However, for Shabbat HaGadol, it is a very particular sermon you deliver. It is a sermon about the Passover rules. Don't forget these are the Passover rules. If there's been any new development like quinoa, the debate over that, or there's something else we've heard about, or something else is going on, but it's mostly a reminder of clean your dishes, make sure you got everything set, make sure your house is clean, make sure you buy your foods, and so forth. And make sure you get matzah early because it runs out. Get lots of matzah, take out the matzah you've been holding for 16 years to use. So this is what Shabbat HaGadol is. So it is the redemption of our people. It comes from a verse in the last prophet Malachi. Lo, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the awesome, fearful day of God. So again, I'll repeat the passage in Malachi. I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the awesome, fearful day of God. What do you think that has become a reference to? It has become a reference to Elijah coming before the Messiah. So why is that passage in the Haftorah from the book of Malachi read on Shabbat HaGadol? Because obviously who comes to our Seder? Elijah. Elijah comes to the Seder in hopes that he will come and bring the Messiah. So Shabbat HaGadol is about redemption from Egypt and hopeful peace on earth and revelation and freedom in the future. You also, on Shabbat HaGadol, you talk about we were slaves in Egypt. Flossie.
What's the difference between the Haftorah and when we read the Torah?
Excellent question. So every Saturday you read Torah, which is a piece of the first 5 books of the Bible. Haftorah is a piece from the next section, from the prophets. So it can be any book from the prophets, going from the first book, which is Joshua, to the last book of the prophets, which is Malachi. Some of them are historical books, but a lot of them are prophetic books. So we take a piece from any of those, and this one we take from Malachi, which is the last of the prophetic books. So
the Haftorah is not from the Torah.
exactly, the Haftorah is from the Bible, but not the Torah.
Yeah.
And the sages try and match the Haftorah to the Torah. Sometimes it is very obvious, like we read the Song of Deborah the same time we read the Song of the Sea. And sometimes it is not so obvious why they made that choice. So those are the 4 official and 1 official Shabbats before Passover. But we have other Shabbats that precede other holidays or memorial days. So for instance, there are 3 Shabbats preceding Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is the 9th of Av. That is the day, it's in the summer, where we put all the terrible things that have happened. And so we have Shabbats leading up to it in preparation for this second full fast day. So Tisha B'Av commemorates, among other things, but mostly the destruction of the temples. And so the Shabbats that lead up to Tisha B'Av speak about the weeks before the temple were destroyed, from the days that the gates were breached to the actual burning of the temple and the disastrous consequences of our behavior that led to the destruction of our temples So the idea that we need to mourn for this time, not just on Tisha B'Av, but on preparation. So again, the Reform movement is not big on Tisha B'Av because a lot of the connotations are let's rebuild the temple, which the Reform movement is not that supportive of. The idea is, why do we need to rebuild the temple? You know, life is good. But after Tisha B'Av, you have a Shabbat called Shabbat Nachamu, which is based on the Isaiah passage, "Comfort, oh comfort me, my people says your God." It's the idea that terrible things have happened, but God is going to comfort us and console us and be there for us. So just as we have the Shabbat dealing with the terrible things in preparation of the terrible things that happen on Tisha B'Av, we have the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av saying, yes, times can be bad, but God will be there to comfort you and console you. And so those are the Shabbats that deal with Tisha B'Av. So, but there are other Shabbats, a couple others that come connected to holidays. One of the most recognizable one, if not the most recognizable, is Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of return. And the Shabbat of return occurs in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So you can imagine what Shabbat Shuvah is about. It's about making amends, right? It's about returning to God. Some would even say Shabbat Shuvah, Shabbat of repentance. So this is the Shabbat we read from Micah. He will take us back in love. He will cover up our iniquities. You will hurl all our sins into the depth of the sea. So it's kind of like God is there to help us with our sins, but we have to show repentance and return to God. Now, Shabbat Shuvah is always the Sabbath in between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. It is the other time of year that we give a sermon traditionally. It's the only time of year that that sermon is not specifically geared towards Passover, usually towards repentance things, right? Because it's in between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. Ironically, since the main sermons for rabbis are given on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur now, Shabbat Shuvah is probably the least attended service, and the sermon reaches the least number of people because Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have in the modern age become the central dates where Jews go to services. So whereas traditionally Shabbat Shuvah is the main sermon, now it's one of the not least, it's the least of the main sermons. How's that? Least main sermon, does that make sense? It does not, but that has never stopped me before, right? So you give this sermon on Shabbat Shuvah and Shabbat Hagadol. Now there's also one other Shabbat that precedes a holiday, and this is Shabbat Shira, which is the Shabbat of song. And that's just said Shabbat Shira because we sing the song of the sea. That comes after we leave after we cross the sea. Miriam leads the people in singing and dancing. That is Shabbat Shira. But it happens right before Tu B'Shvat, which is Jewish Arbor Day. So we have a Shabbat before Jewish Arbor Day, and as we spoke about recently, Tu B'Shvat, Jewish Arbor Day, has a lot more meaning today than in ancient times because of what's going on our planet. So Shabbat Shira is about singing. You can make some sort of connection between singing and saving the planet. But of course, with my singing, it does not save anything. It only destroys. So now, every month we have Rosh Chodesh, which is the new month. That is the beginning of the month, the new month. You know, in the middle of the month, you have the full moon, so you can have a full moon party. The beginning of you have a new month at the beginning, and Rosh Chodesh is the Shabbat in connection with the beginning of the month. So you say a special blessing for the new month. Rosh Chodesh has in recent years become a holiday connected to women, right? It's a holiday connected to women coming together, spending time, educating, celebrating, going to the mikveh. So that is another of our special Shabbats, that the Shabbat connected to Rosh Chodesh. Now, if Rosh Chodesh is the day after Shabbat, then the Shabbat before, like if Rosh Chodesh starts on Saturday night and Sunday, the Shabbat before is called Shabbat Machar, which means tomorrow. The Shabbat of tomorrow, or Shabbat Machar Chodesh, that the Shabbat that tomorrow is the new month. So these are the special Shabbats that have been added to the calendar to keep us not only on target, but to help us prepare for things, especially for Passover. We're preparing for Passover over a period of weeks. You know, we're preparing to get ready because Passover, you know, with the cleaning, and obviously today the preparations aren't as difficult because we can go to the store and buy, you know, matzah ball mix and matzah and kosher everything. If you have to do it all yourself, it takes a lot of preparation because you have to get all the utensils, you have to clean out your house, you have to blend in certain kind of flour, you have to prepare and cook for many days to get everything done. You have to order lots of bananas from Africa, you know, in the ancient world, because banana is my favorite fruit for Passover because it's so easy. But it takes a lot of preparation, so you have a lot. It's mentally, spiritually, and culinarily preparing for Passover. So this is something, Flossie.
Can we go back to Purim for 1 minute?
Sure.
Okay. Why is Purim considered a minor holiday compared to major? And what,
Michael,
how did the Megillah come about that it's written there and not written other places?
I think Michael had the answer.
It's post-Torah. That's the simple answer.
Okay.
Anything that's post-Torah is minor.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
you, Rabbi
holiday.
Michael.
Yeah, you have to be in the first 5 books of the Bible. Not all holidays in the first 5 books are major because Rosh Chodesh obviously is not a major holiday, but generally speaking, you're in the Torah. Now, Purim is in the Bible because the book of Esther is, so if Purim should be considered probably on a higher level than Hanukkah because the 2 books of the Maccabees are not in the Hebrew Bible, but it can never be a major holiday. So what does it mean it's not a major holiday? It means it is a work day. It means anything.
Oh, is that what it means?
If you're not in the Torah, it is a work day. So Purim, you can celebrate Tisha B'Av, you fast, but it's not, you know, in an ancient society, it's not, we're closing all the stores on Purim. You know, if I take a day off, you know, that is my vacation day. It is not a work day off.
What about the Megillah? How did that come about, writing on Megillah?
That is, I'm not exactly sure when the actual origination of it happened. But we've been, you know, the Megillah, you know, the books are originally all written on scrolls. So the Megillat Esther is a scroll like any other originally. So when did we officially make Purim the holiday? I'll have to look that exactly when it started. I would imagine it's post-biblical, so probably I'd say probably in the 2nd or 3rd century is when we started having Purim. But I could be wrong. It could be earlier. I'll look that up.
I have to tell this story, which
Please.
is not you may not like it, but I thought it was just so funny.
Well, now we need to hear it.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are sports fans or know who Tony Kornheiser is. And he was a sports columnist for the Washington Post. And actually, he was on Monday Night Football for a year or two. It was horrible. But he's also a very funny guy. And he used to write comedy columns on Sunday for the style section of the Post, not the sports section. Well, he also had a radio show, which was incredibly entertaining. And when I wasn't working, I would listen to it. And this was right before the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. I don't remember when, probably 1988, 1992. And he was talking to another sports reporter who wanted to know why he wasn't going to the Olympics. And Kornheiser said, well, it's going to be Purim and I can't go. I mean, it was just this rip about, this minor holiday, which he damn well knew was a minor holiday. And it was just, I wish I could get a tape of it. It was just so funny, but people could find that offensive also, but anyway, I just had to share that. It was, I was compelled to do that.
It's not you don't skip work, but you can read the Megillah in the morning or at night, go to Purim Spiel or
Well, he just didn't want to spend the money to get there.
Well, he's afraid to fly. That's another thing. I mean, he's pretty well known for that. When he did Monday Night Football, like John Madden, he took a bus.
Okay, just not as much as John Madden.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of that, they just had the first Israeli athlete, I think, to make the NBA All-Star game. I don't keep up with basketball. And they just had the first Israeli bobsled team compete in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Did you see?
Huh?
Did you see? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think it was the Swiss commentator. Did you see this? That was
No, I think you said something very negative.
Yes.
was
I read about it.
commentating the Israeli bobsled event.
I read about it.
Oh my God, he was horrible, talking about, well, that they shouldn't, it was very anti-Semitic, that they shouldn't have, he was pro-Palestinian, the horrible things they did in Gaza, the usual. But really at the Olympics,
Yeah.
it was terrible. You should look it up if you're interested.
I wish the other comment would say, well, let's see here. Russia's here. China's here. North Korea's here. Iran's here. No, it's only one country.
Yeah, there's a New York Times story about that.
Yeah.
I don't remember whether it was yesterday or today.
About the Swiss guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. So, but anyway, on good news, we've got Purim coming up. We've got Sport Shabbat coming up. And those things should be exciting. We have our choir that sounds great. We'll have, I think, 8 or 9 people singing this Saturday morning from our choir. So that'll be awesome. So hope everybody is doing well. We're setting up a March date where we're going to be at somebody's home in Sun City. The date is in flux right now, but it's going to be at some time at Flossie's house in March. Thank you to Flossie and Lou, who will be hosting. But if anybody has a place to go in April, let me know. And hope everyone has a great week. Be safe. The weather is beautiful because, of course, we're in South Carolina and Georgia where the weather's amazing. I had a lot of people visiting this week and last week from up north, and they were very thrilled to be down here and not shoveling snow, to say the least. So I hope everybody else is doing well, and we will see you hopefully this weekend and next Wednesday when we will have class again. So please join us next Wednesday. And thank you to everybody for joining us today on the Wednesday class that shall not be named. Be safe, everybody.
Rabbi,
Thank you.
Yes,
See you
Flossie.
next week.
Rabbi, I have a question. It has nothing to do with this. I found a unused, brand new 10-cup coffee maker, one of these big ones. Can the synagogue use it?
Yeah, they might. We have one, but I'm sure they'd like another. If not, I'll find somebody to give it to. If it's not used, yeah.
It's
I'm
brand new. I'd like to donate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I
Okay.
don't drink coffee, but my wife does. I'll ask her.
Wherever, give it a good home.
I mean,
Okay.
she's a good person. Nice. So, stay
You'll
safe,
keep her.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.